Okay, it's Friday, December 16th. This is an end of the day and end of the week SPY recap. On the daily chart here on Friday, we gapped down. We generally drifted lower all session long. We kind of drifted between the high of the pre-market range and low of the pre-market range, a relatively small bar with a definite negative bias to it. In terms of the price action today, I discussed on an earlier video how I bought some puts here at the yellow line on the first little move up to take out the pre-market highs and it was anticipating this 2 up, 2 down in the 15-minute bar. We kind of came down, took out our first target here, the pre-market lows. Then we had an orderly pause and made kind of a second push down, so to speak. So that's a typical direction day that I talk about a lot, just 2 pushes. That's what you're looking for. If you want to interpret it 1 and 2 and that's it, fine. You actually try to get a third, it didn't go anywhere. And it's not surprising, and you get that move in the morning, and then by the afternoon you just kind of settle in, and you even rallied a little bit towards the close. And another reason it wasn't going to likely go all day. Sometimes you get it going all day down, but in this case, number one, you've already had 4 days in a row to the downside, and then if you even look at the daily chart, you're really just in a gap area right here. So that's another area where you'd expect it, even though the targets are down here. Eventually, you can see after 4 strong days down, you're just kind of filling a gap, and that's all the market really wanted to do today. So again, it was a day definitely to look to the short side. You had a pretty good confirmation to do so on bar number 3 here, and all morning long, good opportunities. Now, in the bigger picture, you end up with a weekly big shooter bar to the downside. It is a whole broad, if you think about it, this one bar took out all 4 bars in a row worth of action here, and now closing strongly red. You definitely expect some follow through lower, in the week ahead towards some of these targets. The question is, how is it going to happen? After 4 days in a row, it certainly wouldn't be surprising. There's a big fair value gap between the low of this bar and the high of this bar, where we can come up first. Any move, ideally, the ideal setups here would now be moves to the upside that fail in some way. Either 2 ups and 2 downs, either moves that create an inside bar that fail a breakout to the upside and come down. Sometimes you can get, if we get some kind of bar on Monday, we can try an up bar and then come to the midway point of that Monday bar. That'll be a downward move. So that's what we're looking for. Of course, you could continue down, in a row. But if you look at even when we were looking at the upside over here, let's say there were like 4 days in a row of upward action, one little pause day. But you can see, even though you had the trend up here, it consolidated for many days before you got the next leg up. So anything's possible at this point before you continue lower to our targets. But since the monthly chart is definitely now, looks like a 2 up failure where you took out the high of that bar, you moved to the halfway point of it, and the targeting the lows of this bar, the bias is still going to be the downside until this weekly bar turns up. And given the shooter bar, the way it will turn up immediately is to go above the midpoint of this week. Next week, which doesn't really look likely, although anything's possible, it would require some kind of probably 2 down and then 2 up into the, if it's going to even head up at all. But in the meantime, we might get a few weeks down in a row towards these monthly targets, and who knows, maybe we're going to broaden out all the way to new lows into the new year. So we're going to stick with the downward bias, and just know that Monday, we're just going to have to, ideally, it's going to be, well, that's why you kind of watch, the pre-market range and how price opens, and that will guide you to whether we're going to get strong continuation, or what it's more likely is some kind of consolidation in here. And then there'll be, it might not be, maybe 1 or 2 days next week will be ideal type of entries, where maybe a few days, kind of like in here, we had some tricky days in here, although there was still plenty of day trading opportunities if you go back to these days, but they looked a little tricky when you look at the chart in terms of up, down, sideways kind of thing. So you might get that choppiness in here for a little while, but there'll be a few very good days to the downside, knowing our targets all the way down here, to the yellow line and below. So we'll see what happens, but definitely we ended up with a big reversal week this week, and again, there was a lot of good trading opportunities here to the short side throughout the week, especially the last 2 days. So we will just see how we open on Monday. And again, you got to just kind of keep in mind until this changes, that monthly chart looks like it really wants to hit, that low by the end of the month. Even though this is like a buying tail, you might get, people will think this is support down here because it happened last time. So I'm sure some buying will come in before you hit that target. There'll be some pausing along the way, but at some point, until things change, we should get down there. That's kind of the anticipated move for the rest of December. So let's see what happens. Let's see how Monday opens. Right now we're a little exhaustion risk to the downside day by day. The more and more you just go, down, days in a row. So keep that in mind as well.